In 3 words, the best stories.
Let me show you some of the best things going on right now.
The best stories
are authentic.
They are relevant.
thought-provoking.
Emotional is probably the first one for
The best
me.
stories are shareable.
I think emotional.
entertaining.
They're unique.
I would say
relevant.
inspiring, real
Colorful,
stories that are for today.
And they're emotional.
Those are some of the best stories.
Hey, what do you say? To steal one from the great John Forsland as we welcome you back to Storyteller, the monthly live stream that is produced by Tagboard, but more importantly, it is powered by all of you. We have a game changer of a storyteller joining us today, but before we get to him, a quick intro. My name is Sky Muller, former sports anchor turned media support guru here at Tagboard.
And I'm Michelle Ledka-Furbush, a new member to the Tagboard family after spending over a decade working in television myself, where I was an Emmy award-winning sportscaster. Now, the goal of today is to educate, to entertain, and engage with all of you. So tweet us using hashtag Storyteller. Tell us where you're watching from. Give us your favorite moments. And as Sky mentioned, today's guest is a game changer. So we would love to hear what inspires you most about his incredibly unique story. And of course, we can't forget about Tagboard trivia. So make sure you've got your phone nearby for that all-new segment.
And let's keep trucking along and welcome on a man who is Motor City raised, but spent the past 5 years in the Queen City and now finds himself at home in the Emerald City.
He had stops in the United States Hockey League and the East Coast Hockey League before finally landing his current role in the National Hockey League as the first ever Black team broadcaster in NHL history for the newest franchise, the Seattle Kraken. Everett Fitzhugh, welcome to Storyteller, my friend. It's good to see you.
Sky, Michelle, thank you guys so much. This is a huge honor to be on this podcast and to join you guys. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm anxious as everybody else to get this thing started.
The honor goes both ways. And Everett, we like to start this podcast with a particular question. You've been consuming stories your entire life.
Yeah.
You've been telling stories in some capacity your entire life. So in your opinion, the best stories are blank, blank, and blank.
Oof. So I think for me, the best stories are humorous. I think they have to have a little bit of humor to them. They have to be relatable. I always love to put a little bit of myself into the stories that I tell because I think it allows the viewer, the listener, the reader, whatever you're doing, it allows them to fully put themselves in your place. And also, they have to be detailed. They have to be interesting. And my wife gets on me all the time because I will go from A to B, but I'll visit Z and then go backwards all the way back down to get back to B. So your stories have to be humorous, they have to be relatable, and I think they have to be detailed and give you all that information and the background info. I'll do the setup for you. I'll do it all. I like to think that I'm a good storyteller. Sometimes I am, sometimes I'm not, but those are the ones that I would say.
I can attest you are a very good storyteller. And you're a funny storyteller. You're a detail-oriented storyteller because you and I have had the privilege of speaking a couple of times before.
Yeah.
I'm gonna focus in on humorous right now. You said that some of the best stories are humorous. I want to know what is one of the most funny, hilarious stories from your career.
Oh my goodness. So you know what? So the funniest story from my career is also probably the most embarrassing moment of my career as well.
The best.
So this was a couple of years ago when I was in Cincinnati. We had a player named Vas Glotov, and he was in the Buffalo Sabres organization. I think he's now playing over in Russia in the KHL. So he was setting up to do the Michigan, which is the lacrosse-style goal from behind the net. You take the puck, you flip it up onto your blade, and then you just like rip it in. It's unbelievable. Just YouTube Michigan goal, Michigan hockey goal, the Michigan, and you'll see it up on YouTube. So he takes the puck behind the net, and I was distracted. So I'm in the press box, and I had my intern like right here on the side of me, and he's like waving, trying to do something. And I turn my head for 1 second, and then I hear the horn go off. So I see the last thing I saw was Glotov in front of the net, Didn't see him go back behind the net. And then I hear the horn go off, and he's fist pumping through center ice. Yeah. So I'm going off of what I saw. I didn't wait for the replay. Rookie mistake number 1. And it was Vosklotov, a hustle play out in front. What a goal. He crashed the net. I sold the heck out of this thing. Come to find out, there's video replay of what actually happened, and he took the puck on his stick in the net. I missed it. I get down to the locker room after the game. Our coach was like, what in the world game were you watching? It was on TSN. It was on ESPN. You name it. It was all over the place. Luckily, the sports broadcasters and the pundits were all talking over my call of the goal, but the Twitter was not happy with old Fitzy that day. So I ate that one. I own that one. I wore it with pride. Like, yeah, we all mess up. And again, I sold the hell out of it, and it was 100% wrong. But yeah, I think that's my funny / most embarrassing moment of my career.
That's so good. It plays nicely into what I tell people, which I don't know if I've ever seen a hockey goal in real time. I'll be watching hockey and I'll look down for like 2 seconds, and that's when they score. I'm like, I just can't catch a goal. So I can only imagine. I mean, you have to be dialed in for every second, so things like that don't happen. That's so funny.
Yeah. And that's sometimes the best part about the job too, is you do have to watch everything that goes on, but it's also human nature. I mean, I've been involved in so many broadcasts and so many games. It's a boring game. It's sloppy. It's, not a lot of goals are being scored. Not a lot of action is happening. And the puck goes down the ice and in the other way. Now it can be so easy just to kind of look down, take a sip of water, play with your phone a little bit, tie your shoe. It can be so easy. And that was one of those moments where, I just got distracted. I looked down and... Oh, I'm going to tell you what I think happened. No, that's not at all what happened.
Oh my gosh, that is amazing. Everett, you mentioned
we have to find that video, Sky.
Yeah, we do. The power of the internet.
Nope.
No, we can do you a favor and we'll delete it if we find it on the internet. We'll just delete it wherever it's located. Yeah, we won't show it to anybody. You mentioned how some of the best stories have a lot of detail, and obviously you give a lot of detail on a radio broadcast. Mm-hmm. Also giving a lot of detail as you tell the story of this brand new franchise that is the Seattle Kraken. But at the same time, there's not a ton of detail because you don't have players. You've slowly been adding new parts to this franchise. What's it been like building a brand new brand from scratch, serving as the face of the franchise right now in a lot of ways, but also trying to tell the story the way it needs to be told?
When you hear the term startup, you think of a tech company founded by 2 guys in their grandma's basement, and they had an idea and they took it to some brick and mortar Regis rental office and then, started from there. This is the largest small startup operation I think you could ever imagine. And it's been unbelievable. It's been incredible to be a part of this, seemingly since day one. I know I came in a couple of years into the process of NHL Seattle, but being able to see our staff grow from even when I started here has been awesome. And our vision, what we're planning on doing for our fans, how we want to incorporate our community, how we want to make our community feel a part of this team. We don't want hockey fans. We want people to truly feel like they're a part of this team and a part of this organization. They're more than fans to us. And I think it's been so amazing how we're trying to tell our story through our community's eyes and tell our community story through our eyes. And there's so many different people and amazing backgrounds in our organization trying to tell that story. It's a really good mix of local Seattle folks who know the landscape, who have the history here. They have the roots here. You have people who aren't from here but can bring a different perspective of things that they have seen, a ton of influence on how this can not only be Seattle's team, but the Pacific Northwest team. You know, we've got a huge interest and want to incorporate the great state of Alaska. They're a part of our territory. We fought to get Alaska within our territory because we want to tell their story, their hockey story. We want to tell parts of Oregon, Idaho, Montana, Eastern Washington. This isn't Seattle's team. This is the Pacific Northwest hockey team. And for us to have the honor and the privilege of telling that hockey story in our community is awesome. And it's been so much fun seeing the ways that we've grown, the strides that we've taken. We've had some missteps, but who hasn't? And I think we're better because of it. But it's been so much fun to be a part of this whole process. It's something that you take for granted because expansion teams are so few and far between. You don't have a lot of expansion teams. And to be able to not only be around for an expansion team, you know, Vegas and us, you go back 20 years in Nashville and Columbus and Minnesota, but to actually be a part of it is unbelievable. It's such a cool experience.
It's so easy to hear your passion for not only the sport of hockey, but also the Seattle Kraken, but then even a kind of a bigger umbrella, broadcasting and the gift and the platform it gives you in storytelling. And if anyone follows the fun adventures that you've been having since you've come to the Pacific Northwest, your storytelling kind of goes through all of them. I mean, we've got sightseeing and you've done public appearances and all kinds of fun things. And like I mentioned, you can hear your passion for storytelling and that connection that you get through it. I'm curious that through this version of storytelling, of what you've been able to do with the Kraken, has your perspective changed on what storytelling should mean or the importance that it has with it?
100%. You know, I used to consider myself a hockey guy, right? I was power play, I was PK, I was goals. That's all I cared about. And then as I gradually grew in this industry and learned more about this industry, I learned that it's more than just on the ice. It's off the ice. It's humanizing players. It's making them relatable to your fan base because not everybody's a hockey fan. Not everybody knows about the game of hockey. So how can I, as a PR guy for a team, as a marketer for a team, how can I help our fans understand our team, our players, our game even better? Now, fast forward here to Seattle, it takes on a whole new meaning because now we're trying to educate an entire region about the NHL. There are hockey fans here. You've got the Silvertips, you've got the T-Birds, you've got a couple of teams in Eastern Washington, Vancouver, Portland. You've got a lot of hockey here, but not a lot of NHL hockey. So educating an entire community and bringing them into this NHL family has been a huge eye-opening experience for me as well. I've learned a whole lot about talking to communities and going into places that maybe hockey isn't their first choice. Maybe hockey's not their fifth choice, but they're excited for the Kraken because it's a new brand. It's a new opportunity for them to get behind their city and to yell and scream and cheer for their city. So being able to help our community understand us as an organization, our passion for hockey, our passion for diversity and inclusion within our organization and the community. I've learned so much about telling that story. And yeah, we're going to have players soon. We're going to be talking about the power play. We're going to be talking about the Kraken's first trip to Montreal and the Bell Center and the rivalry between the Canucks and the Kraken. But right now, we're trying to build that fan base, and we're trying to get that fan base emotionally invested in our vision and our community and ultimately within our game.
Just by walking around town, I can tell you, you're doing a great job of it. There is definitely hype around the team. There we go.
There we go.
Michelle has the hat. Look at that. See the gear.
That's a really good
I've
look.
got this secondary gear. This is an unbiased episode, by the way, but we are rocking the gear across the board. I
got my scarf up there. Yes. I got a Kraken puck right up there too.
Here we are, fully. What do we call Kraken fans? We're fully Kraken. I don't know.
I don't know. You know, we're trying to figure that out. We're trying to figure that out. You know, Is it the Squid Squad?
Okay.
Is it you know?
There we go.
Are we Kraken fans a part of Davy Jones's locker? I don't know. We're trying to figure that out right now. But there are a lot of different things that we're working on trying to find a name for the fan base.
Should we bring in like the pirate gear with this? I mean, I'm kind of thinking like, you know, should we have like the swashbucklers or like, you know?
Yes, Kraken fans, we could be the scallywags. We could be the swashbucklers. You know, I would love for our, you know, similar to a college student section, right? I would love a section of just ravenous fans who have nicknamed themselves something, and opposing teams come in here and are like, oh man, I hate playing in Seattle because in section 145 and 247, those guys are always on top of you. I would love to have that home ice advantage. That'd be awesome.
Sky, I'm seeing an opportunity here for a Twitter poll.
I do see a Twitter poll here. We could throw some. I think you are just nailing that. Like, what can the Cameron crazies of the Seattle Kraken be, right? And bring that into. Yeah, I think there's an opportunity there. The Twitter poll. We'll drop it below.
And I've always been a huge fan of college sports and the atmospheres in college sports. I think we need to normalize professional marching bands. And like, I wish, 100%. I would love a Kraken student section atmosphere, Cameron crazies. You know, you go to an SEC football game, something like that. I think that'd be awesome.
Everett, you mentioned there's been some mistakes along the way. You don't have to say the mistakes necessarily that you feel like you guys have made in building this, but obviously building a brand new franchise, there's going to be mistakes. We have people listening that are potentially building their own brands out there or building or helping lead PR efforts for East Coast Hockey League teams and stuff like that. I know you've been there before as well. What are some things that you've learned to maybe help out some of those people who are like, hey, we made this mistake, or at least it didn't work out for us, but just to give people a little insight into, hey, we tried it, you can give it a shot, but hey, maybe go this direction.
You know, I think the biggest thing, it's going to sound so cliche, but don't be afraid to fail. You know, especially if you're starting something from scratch, from brand new, there are going to be missteps. And when I say missteps, there's been nothing egregious. We have got so many talented people on our staff that perfection is, while perfection may not be 100% attainable, I feel like our staff is about as close to perfection as you're going to find, because there are so many people from sports, from different walks of life. Our CEO, Todd Lewicki, when he interviewed me, he said, Everett, I'm not trying to bring in the best hockey people or the best arena people. I'm trying to bring in the best people. And that really spoke to me, because it doesn't matter what your background is. If you have that passion for what you're building and for what you're doing, that's all that matters. So if you're starting out something, there may be some missteps along the way. I was in Cincinnati for 5 years. You know, we were a franchise that 91 to 03, I believe, 02, they took a bit of a hiatus, came back in 06. There were missteps when they restarted. I was there for 5 years. I made missteps. I made plenty of missteps, but you learn from them and you don't be afraid of those missteps, because ultimately you'll be able to find something within those missteps. And I think there's been a lot of times when we as an organization will be sitting in different departmental meetings and we'll be talking about something, and, well, I had an idea last week that didn't work out, but you know what? In trying to correct that idea, I thought about this and went off in a completely different direction and gave you gold in the process. So it's okay. Don't worry about not being perfect. No one's perfect. But if you learn and if you're open to the criticism, if you have the quick memory, you know, get up, brush yourself off and try it again. That's the big advice that I would give people in this position.
Wonderful advice.
And I was just going to say, kind of on that note, you kind of touched on it a little bit when you were in Cincinnati. I mean, you've worn a lot of different hats throughout your career, play-by-play announcer. You've been involved with public relations. Obviously, in smaller minor league hockey, you've seen kind of the importance of fan engagement and vision of teams and marketing and all that kind of stuff. I'm curious how having that vast or large background to kind of pull from. How has that helped you come into this role with the Kraken where you've really been a part of building it from the ground up?
It's been huge, and it's an opportunity. Cincinnati and Seattle are very similar in the fact that, and while I don't like to use this phrase that often, they're both, non-traditional hockey markets, if you will. Cincinnati, it's a Reds town. It's a Bengals town. You've got UC and Xavier. You've got a new MLS franchise all over Ohio. High school football is king. You're right over the border from Kentucky, so you've got UK and Louisville basketball. I can go on and on if you want. There is so much noise in Cincinnati when it comes to a AA minor league hockey team. So for me, having been PR, broadcasting, marketing, social media, team services, so I planned the team travel. I was the mascot on a couple of occasions. I was a community relations. I did it all. I did everything in Cincinnati except sell tickets. And in my previous stop to Cincinnati, I sold tickets. So I've done it all. In minor league sports, you have to do it all. And I think for me, it helps me see the big picture because, like I said before, I used to be a hockey guy. I didn't care about all that other stuff. I was going to get to the NHL. I was going to be a broadcaster. Put me on the radio, put me on TV. He shoots, he scores, go home. That's it. I learned so much about the business in my time in Cincinnati and how a team operates and how a team runs. And it helps bring that perspective to a place like Seattle, because I can draw on a lot of those experiences. I remember one time when, I was doing some media outreach and we were up against a Bengals, Reds, and a high school football game. What did I do to make sure that we could get a little path in there on TV or something like that? So being able to draw on those experiences has been huge. And I've been very, very grateful that, my superiors and my colleagues here at the Kraken, they've tapped into those resources. They've said, hey, you are in a position that not a lot of us are in. You've worked in minor league sports. You've been able to wear all these hats. So they've asked for examples and they've really been able to appreciate that wealth of knowledge and experience that I bring. And I've always said, listen, I'm here for whatever you guys need. I want to be more than just a broadcaster. I want to be someone that you can count on, you can depend on, and that can bring that different side of things, that different view. And so far, it's been really, really cool to be a part of building this team from the ground up.
And speaking of building, you signed the final beam at Climate Pledge Arena.
That was cool.
How cool. First of all, did you ever think that your job in hockey would take you to a construction site? And where does doing that kind of rank in all the amazing things that you've been able to do while you've been involved with the Kraken so far?
So to answer your first question, no, of course not. Like, what? Are you kidding me? Like, this is insane. As far as where does that experience rank, I don't know if you saw it on my, I think it was on my Instagram, my Twitter, one of my social media handles. I was like, now in 50 years, I can tell my grandkids, you see that beam up there? No, the one to the left, the gray one. Yeah, I signed that. It's so cool to be able to have your name on a beam. And I guess that topping out ceremony is a long-standing tradition within the construction world and the building world. So to be a part of that was so cool, to have our story on that beam, to be able to sign that beam. And that beam has gone through a lot when you think about it. How many people on that construction site and in the organization, were kind of left at a crossroads during COVID. How many people were internally like, man, it's going to be tough to get this done, but they persevered. They got through it. The building is still on schedule. A huge stick taps to our construction people, our builders on site who were able to fight through that pandemic. Everybody on staff to do that, and then to have your name as a part of that. And listen, I played a very, very small role up to that point, right? I mean, I probably didn't even deserve to have my name on that beam, but for me to be able to sign that and to be on there and in the rafters for as long as that building will stand is awesome. It's such a cool experience.
let's just that beam better outlive all of us. That's all I got to
It
say.
better.
Yeah, it better be
Yes.
hundreds of years down the road is what I'm thinking. In the name of things that maybe you didn't think you were going to get to do, let's take a quick ride on the timeline time machine. We're going to go back early June, so not too far. I only set the dial just a little smidge back when you threw out the first pitch for the Seattle Mariners. Now, I haven't seen any like 1 day, 2 day contracts coming your way from Jerry Dipoto, but I think it still went well. So take us through that moment.
Again, childhood dream. I grew up a baseball fan. Baseball, I love working in hockey. I could never work in another sport other than hockey, but baseball is my favorite sport. I love the game of baseball. That's my escape. I'll go to the Mariners game and sit in the outfield, have a couple of pops and a hot dog and just relax. And that's my church. I love it. So to be able to do that on a major league field, my name on the back of a jersey, I got to meet the legend Rick Riz, and I got to talk to him before the game, and he gave me some words of encouragement, and stepping out on the field was so cool. And again, to be able to do all of this in the midst of a pandemic and to see how far that we've come was awesome. That walk to the mound, or slightly in front of the mound, and it was so cool. My wife was there. My mom came in town, was there. The whole organization, our whole marketing and communication department was there. It was so cool to be a part of. I think the catcher probably could have reached his hand out a little further to help me out a little bit. Could have given me another inch or two, but you know what? Whatever. In 50 years, when I tell this story, I'm not going to remember the pitch. I'm going to remember the experience, and it was such a cool experience. I say this all the time. I honestly feel like I'm the luckiest man in the world. I'm playing with house money here. I'm living my dream at 32 years old. And all of these things that I'm able to do, I'm just so grateful and so happy and so honored that I get to do them, but also that I get to be a representative of my new hometown's team, to now represent the city of Seattle, the state of Washington as a resident. I mean, I'm from Seattle. I was born and raised in Detroit, but now I'm from Seattle, and that really means a lot to me to be able to do that on that stage in that fashion. I gave 95% effort, and if that pitch had another foot on it, it would have been perfect. But you know what? I'm not going to remember that. I'm going to remember the opportunity that I had, and it was so cool.
And I want to say, Everett, you told me when you were a little boy, you came. This isn't the first time you've seen the Mariners play. You saw the Mariners play against the Tigers back in the Kingdom.
Yes.
So, I mean, as that little boy, did you ever think, however many years later, you'd be throwing out a first pitch there?
No, never. And honestly, as a huge baseball fan, I remember when T-Mobile, I guess then it was Safeco, I think it was, when it opened. And I have this dream that before I die, I want to get to every major league ballpark. And this was high on my list. So I remember when it opened, I was begging my mom to take me back to Seattle. Like, I got to go to this ballpark. So again, my first trip to T-Mobile was awesome. But going back to that first trip to Seattle, it's not the first ball fiasco that I had involving the Mariners.
Ooh, I feel like there's a good story here.
Oh, buddy. So I was 9. I was 8, 9 years old. And I came to the game at the old Kingdom, Mariners, Tigers. And, to this day, I still have to get to the game for batting practice. So I have mom get us there early, and we're watching BP. And I'm running around by the Tigers bullpen in the outfield and talking to guys. And it's so cool. And, one of the Tigers threw me a ball. I'm like, I'm from Detroit. He threw me a ball. It was it was a Doug Brocail. Doug Brocail
There's
threw
a throwback.
me the ball. Doug Brocail. So I got the ball, and I saw this commotion down the first baseline. So I'm like, hey, Mom, I want to go check this out. So I walk over to the first baseline, and there's some guy down there signing autographs. I'm 9 years old. I don't know who he is. So I'm like, you know what? He must be kind of important. So I get his autograph. And I was like, oh, cool, awesome. I got a picture. I got an autograph from an MLB player. Awesome. So we get back home, and, I'm playing catch, and I end up playing catch with that baseball, and I lose the baseball. Well, come to find out, that unknown player, his name was Alex Rodriguez.
Oh, no. It's the Sandlot 2.
It is.
Yes,
It's the Sandlot.
Sandlot 2. I had an Alex Rodriguez signed baseball. This would have been 98, so I think it was his, third year in the league, maybe, something like that. So he was in that battle with Jeter and Nomar for best shortstop in the league. And, again, 9-year-old Everett, oh, yeah, no big deal. Just have a baseball signed by some no-name. He's probably some scrub, some bullpen catcher. Nope, it was Alex Rodriguez. And yeah, so that was my other ball fiasco. Both of my baseball fiascos have happened in this city.
Wow. Wow. That is such an amazing story, Everett. Oh my gosh. That one's going to take me a while to wrap my head around. And it's hard to think that we could even beat that story, but we've got so many more great stories to come here from Everett. But right now it's time to grab your phone and get ready to scan the QR code on your screen, because it's time for Tagboard Trivia, not Mariners edition or Tigers edition, Seattle Kraken edition. Back here on Storyteller with the one and only Everett Fitzhugh. You've already given us so much great advice to how you kind of have gotten to the point of what you're doing right now with the Kraken. But I want to kind of dive in a little bit more to some best advice. Mm-hmm. You say it perfectly on your Twitter page under your bio. Everett Fitzhugh, breaking down walls and defying stereotypes. And for anyone who's really followed your journey, you are doing just that. First of all, congratulations. It's so inspiring.
Thank you.
But I'd like to know, what is the best advice that you could give to someone out there that has a dream, but maybe doesn't know where to start in trying to reach that dream or get on the path to get to that dream?
I think for me, the biggest piece of advice that I've learned, and I had to learn it because, there weren't a lot of people who looked like me within the game of hockey. So watching other black players and other minorities and women succeed in areas that they're not supposed to succeed in, I learned no matter who you are, no matter your sexual orientation, your gender, your race, your ability, there's a place for you, there's a place for your voice in that space. It can be sports, it can be medicine, it can be science, it can be aerospace engineering, it could be I don't care where it is. There's a place for you within that space. And growing up in Detroit as it's hockey town. So, you're exposed to hockey at a very early age. And still, historically, hockey has been a predominantly white male sport. And it wasn't until I was, 9 years old, so third grade, eight or nine, I saw a Red Wings game, and they were playing the Edmonton Oilers, and they had two black players on their team, Mike Greer and George the Rock. I went screaming through the house, like, Mom, there's two black players on Edmonton. There's two guys who look like me. It was so cool as an 8-year-old black kid from Detroit who was told you can only play basketball or you can only play football. It was so cool to see those two on the ice playing for Edmonton. 2-3 years later, Anson Carter joins the team. You had three black players on the same team. And then over a 5-6 year period, the late 90s, early 2000s, Oilers had 7 black players come through their locker room. So to be able to see that as a young kid was huge. And it let me know there's a place for my voice, for my fandom, if I want to play, if I want to broadcast, if I want to coach, if I want to be a season ticket holder. There's a place for me as a black man in this game of hockey. And that's what I learned a long time ago. So that's the advice. And that's what I would tell people. Don't listen to the noise. There's going to be a lot of noise. There's a ton of noise. There is a place for you. In whatever space you want to be in, you belong within that space.
So
Powerful.
beautifully said. Oh, I love that, Everett.
And it's so important too, because I think back to like my own experience growing up. I was inspired by Dave Niehaus to get into broadcasting, who was the Mariners play-by-play, which obviously you met Rick Riz, so the legend. They were, they worked together for many years, and so it's so important for these young black men, young black women to be able to turn on the radio dial or look at YouTube and watch Sightseeing and see a black man and yourself, Everett, up there changing the game. And that's what you are. You're a game changer. And you worked hard to get there. I know you mentioned earlier that you feel like you're living out your dream, but you didn't wake up and live out your dream. You worked hard to get there. And so it's really cool to see you change the game and give that opportunity and be that voice for a lot of people. And you've been given and you've earned this bigger platform now to not just, highlight the black voice, but also highlight other game changers. So what stands out to you as maybe the most important story that you've been able to lend that voice to?
Oh man, there have been so many. I think from a team perspective, going on this sightseeing with Fitz journey and finding that hockey lives in the Pacific Northwest. There is hockey here. People love saying, Seattle's not really a hockey town. It's not really a hockey market. They haven't had the NHL here since World War I, but there have been countless pro teams that have been here. You've got junior franchises on either side of downtown, on the other side of the mountains, down in Portland, up in Vancouver. You've got the Canucks there. This is a very passionate sports town, sports area, and they are so excited for this team. And it's been really emotional to travel to Eastern Washington, Spokane, and Moscow, Idaho, Moses Lake. It's been amazing to go up to Anchorage and Seward, Alaska, and Fairbanks, Alaska, and tell their story. Finding hockey in a place that you would think hockey is here in larger influence than it is, but being able to tell that story has been powerful. We've found that there are season ticket holders in Alaska who are going to be coming down every other weekend for Kraken games. There are folks in Spokane that are going to be coming over the mountains every weekend for Kraken games. We talked to a guy named Rob McCann. He and his wife had billeted for 16 years. They billeted 10 players for the Spokane Chiefs. Of those 10 players, 8 of them signed NHL contracts.
Wow.
So he had 8 NHLers coming through his house alone. So being able to tell that story of the passion of our game here in our community has been awesome. I think more broad for us being able to reach out to the local indigenous community, reaching out to the local Latinx community, the Black communities, going into a lot of these underrepresented and historically marginalized areas. And like I said, telling them there's a place for you within our game. Going into these communities, educating them about us, about the game, inviting them to different programs that we have, reaching out so that hockey isn't just this rich white man's game that it used to once be. And I think those are the two things that have been most impactful as far as telling stories for me.
One thing that we try and do here on our Storyteller podcast is really just highlight all the neat nuances of storytelling and how storytelling is just this ultimate thing of connecting people. It's how game changers, their story is told. It's through storytelling. It's how legends continue on. It's celebrating moments. It's so many awesome things. And the bigger of a platform you can get, the bigger reach you have with your storytelling. So us here on Storyteller want to give you that platform for here, one of our last segments, it's a little fun. We all know, of course, what a mic drop moment is. But in the spirit of hockey, we want to give you an opportunity to have a puck drop moment, Everett. Okay. So the floor is yours. What has been on your mind? Drop the puck, my friend.
What has been on my mind? I'm going to say it again. Hockey is here in Seattle. I am so sick and tired of people questioning if the NHL is going to work here. There's no hockey here. You already have Vancouver. That team is too. Stop it. Hockey is here in Seattle. We are so excited to represent our community, to represent our city and our state. I want folks to know that we're not the Seattle Kraken. We are the Washington, the Oregon, the Alaska, the Montana, the Idaho Kraken. We want this is going to be a community-based venture, a community-inspired venture, and we're so happy that our fans, our community, they've essentially thrown so much blind faith into us. We don't have players yet. We're still building from the ground up, but they are so excited and so passionate already for us, for the construction to be done both at Climate Pledge and then at our training facility up in Northgate. So the fact that we have a 60,000 person wait list for season tickets, the fact that we had 32,000 ticket depositors, 10,000 deposits in the first 12 minutes. Tell me hockey isn't here. This is a hockey town. The NHL is going to thrive here. We're going to win Stanley Cups here. We're going to set an example that the entire league is going to follow here. So take your non-hockey town narrative and take it somewhere else. I don't want it here. This is a hockey town, and we cannot wait to prove that.
Boom!
I'm ready to drop the gloves and chuck nuts with somebody. Let's make it happen.
I'm like, was that a hype video? Let's go!
Let's go!
Yeah.
So excited.
Yes. Everett, before we let you go, we like to end the show by finding more storytellers. We believe in creating this big community of storytellers from all walks of life. So we end with the storyteller shout out. So I want you to look into the camera and I want you to say, I just got done telling my story. Now I nominate so-and-so to come on the show and share theirs.
Ooh, that's a good one. So my name is Everett Fitzhugh, radio play-by-play announcer for your Seattle Kraken, and I just told my story. Now I invite executive chef Molly Demers from Climate Pledge Arena on to tell hers. She is the first female executive chef to open an arena, and her story is absolutely amazing. Her passion for sustainability, her passion for cooking, her passion for Seattle is so infectious. Her attitude is awesome, And I selfishly want to hear her story. So that means you should also want to hear her story as well.
Wow. I didn't know that. That's what this is all about.
I love
Finding
it.
people with amazing stories and then shining the light on them. That's
I am
amazing.
sold. I would love to hear her story as well and have her be here on Storyteller with us.
Thank you.
Well, Everett, thank you so much for jumping on the podcast with us today, sharing your story, sharing the story of the Seattle Kraken and how hockey is here and here to stay in the Seattle and greater Seattle area, the surrounding territories up to Alaska. It's one big team. If we're going to take on the Canucks, we need everyone together.
Yes.
So
all of us.
Thank you so much. I know it's about to get even more busy. Expansion draft, the player draft into the month of July. And then from there, we just keep on going, and puck drop is not far away. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Michelle, Sky, thank you guys so much. This was an absolute honor. I had a blast, and I cannot wait to speak to you guys again. Thank you so much.